Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone, I'm sad today, everyone. I didn't know Buffalo was going to be such a problem for me, everyone. Hi everyone.
God.
I mean, of all the teams that could take them out, Buffalo was not on the bingo card this year for 2 visits to Buffalo, and neither game were they even really close to winning. I mean,
last night was closer, but they were both
better
similar.
than the one the week ago, whatever it was. But like, it wasn't like they were. Let's see, the shots for both teams were like nothing burgers. Like it was really,
correct.
Yeah. This team's out of gas.
Here was the breakdown of last night, actually, where the panic should have set in early. Buffalo, just talking through John and the stats that he gets. Buffalo is literally the worst first period team in the league. So if you don't score on them in the first period, their strongest game comes in the second and third period. I had also heard, because Buffalo hasn't made the playoffs in something like 12 years now, that the home crowd was ready to jump on them. As in, if you had scored on them early, the crowd was just going to start booing the team because they're frustrated, and as they should be. And the Caps just did not deliver. They didn't get enough shots on net. The scoring has dried up. They look slow. They look pretty much out of gas at this point. Connor McMichael scores a goal to cut it to 2-1, which gave them some hope in the third period. But it was just like last week, where they had a close game heading into the third, and then it all just falls apart on them because they can't just muster up these scoring chances. And it's an epitome of how they've lost, this second half of the season.
Yeah. I mean, the standings still say they're a point back.
They're not, though. They're really not. Like, I was going through this with Ben Raby last night. The unfortunate part is what happened here is everything has broken the wrong way for them, besides them losing. It's broken the wrong way here. The Penguins are now a point up on them, on the Caps. The Caps are tied with the Red Wings and the Flyers. They have the tiebreaker over those two teams at the moment. But the problem here is the Islanders are the team that came out of nowhere, have 89 points, are basically going to be locked into that third Metro spot. And oh, by the way, the Islanders and the Penguins play each other the last game of the season. So there's no real opportunity to jump these guys unless you win 3 straight games. And do you think the Caps are going to win 3 straight against Tampa, Boston, and at Philly? Because I don't. So, yeah. Off of last night, it's basically over off of last night.
Yeah, it's basically over, right? Unless for some reason everybody have to lose. Everybody would have to lose. Like
correct.
It's just yeah. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, that was fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
See what they got for next year.
Yeah.
Let me tell a quick story before I go through the Beast. I love the Beast. It's my favorite. This guy's got Mel Kiper, hold my beer. This guy, Dane Brugler, writes this thing called The Beast, which is, let me see how he describes it. Last year's, in 2023, it was 399 scouting reports, nearly 1,700 prospect rankings, and 300,000 words. It is the Bible of the NFL draft from Dane Brugler of The Athletic, and this year's is 324 pages long. And it is about as in-depth as you can possibly get. So I'll get to that in a second. But I want to tell a quick story that I forgot to mention yesterday upon the news, because I was reminded of it last night, of O.J. Simpson dying yesterday. This was maybe 2 weeks ago, where my wife's an interior designer, and she was at a client's house. And she called me, not to talk to me about whatever was going on at the client's house, but I don't know, about something. And she said, hold on a second, my client has a question for you. And she says, do you think, he's a big sports collector, do you think a O.J. Simpson signed football is worth anything? And I said to her, I just said, like, he knows he killed 2 people, right? And she's like, and everybody laughed, like whatever. And then I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I'll be like, I don't really know how to answer that question. I don't really know, but I'm going to go with probably not, I mean, maybe there are some pretty demented people that want to collect that stuff because of his infamy and less about his football career, but like, I don't think so. And then I thought about that today. She brought it up. She goes, what do you think that football's worth now? And I'm like, you know what? I'm not actually sure anymore because I bet there was a market today for all of that stuff. I bet it exploded today. I bet.
I will say this. OJ didn't mind doing shows and stuff like that. And there is a different market for that stuff than you would think because
OJ liked money. OJ signed a lot of things.
Right.
Yes.
And so here's the thing. Like, you'll find this as you look at certain guys in their careers. Like, Dan Marino falls in this category, actually. If you want to meet Dan Marino, pay for the autograph, and you'll meet him, and then you'll get him to sign whatever you want. And that's what you're really paying for. You're paying for the interaction. You're actually not really paying for the autograph because he's in that category of, yes, all-time great quarterback, but he's signed a million of these things over the last 20 years or whatever since he retired. OJ, even longer time than that. So if you liked him, I guess you could have gotten one of these things, but you were paying for the interaction, essentially. I would go with probably not worth that much, but I guess because he has died, maybe there was an uptick yesterday. But if you're one of those guys that does all the shows, your autograph is actually just not worth that much, but you can still charge for it because people will still want to meet you. So that's kind of how it settles down.
I would guess that unusually different, unique items that he signed might be worth something now. Like not a football or a card or a picture or anything like that. But if you got him, because you know how this goes, like these celebrities sign a lot of different things. If you have some extremely unique item that the kind of is a one-on-one that has some kind of kitschy appeal to it, then I think it might be actually worth something today. Because like an OJ side football, there's thousands of those out there. Now, did a lot of people get rid of him after he murdered two people? I don't know. Right? I don't know.
How many were bought after that?
Yeah.
There were probably a bunch bought after.
That's the other thing. Yeah. Like Pete Rose's signatures and desire to get his signature went up exponentially after he was kicked out of baseball.
Right.
So, and anybody who went to Vegas could meet Pete Rose and get his signature on something easily. Like that was no big deal. So there's hundreds of thousands of items that have his signature on it.
Like I'm staring right now, just while you were talking, I pulled up O.J. Simpson signed whatever. There's signed mini helmets that are going for less than $100. So
there's like a million things of this.
Yeah, they're not. It just depends.
It would have to be like, is it a game worn USC jersey?
Correct. Right.
Is it his Heisman Trophy? It would have to be something really unique or something bizarre. Like I met him at this very unique thing and he happened to sign it. That would be that's what I think would be worth something today.
Yes.
But I did see an uptick across my feeds. I saw an uptick of things like cards and stuff like hitting the market because of the news that he had passed away. So I still find it odd a day later how many people just kind of ignored the murdering part when they were talking about him passing away. It's astounding how many people kind of ignored that. I expected there were plenty of people that came out and were trying to be truth tellers of he didn't do it. And that's fine if that's what you want to believe. Like to this day, if you want to believe that, if you haven't given up on that yet, fine. I can't, no one's convincing you otherwise at this point. That's fine. But at least you're acknowledging it's part of the story. At least if you're saying it, that he it was whoever, it was something else, or it was a plant or whatever, at least you're acknowledging it happened and it tarnished his name and career. The people who ignored it and only talk about him as a football player, what planet are you people on? We're not in the same society, are we? How do you not know or acknowledge that that's the headline of the story here? That he was the subject of the most watched criminal trial in American history. What are you talking about? How do you not mention that?
By the way, I didn't see this yesterday before the show, so I didn't bring it up yesterday. But there was a discourse last night on Twitter that I think you'll find funny because I think you could actually relate to it a little bit. Like you said, your office stopped, right, when this verdict came through, and that basically then everyone went back to work because you were working for a news outlet. There were people on Twitter yesterday, younger obviously, way younger than me even, because someone tweeted out, this trial was so big we were watching it live in school. And there were kids, now kids going, BS, there's no way. And there was this back and forth of What do you mean, no way? I was there. We watched it live on TV because it was such a big deal. Like, I didn't even think about that who does that anymore?
The entire country stopped and watched this. I know it's hard to believe that happened, but they did.
Right.
Like, since you mentioned that, when I was a kid in elementary school, we watched the space shuttle that launched and exploded live because it was that big of a deal. It was that momentous of an occasion. No one expected what was going to happen, but it was that big of a deal. People had talked about this event. It was going to be the first female astronaut. It was like another momentous occasion in history for the United States space program. Like, it was this whole thing. We watched that, school stopped and everybody literally watched it. And the same thing happened. I'm sure. I mean, I was in college at the time when OJ happened, but I can't express for people who are younger that weren't alive or cognizant of what was going on, how big a deal that was. I saw somebody write something like 150 million people, they believe, estimated, watched the verdict at the same time. That's over half the country stopped work to watch the verdict. Because everybody had paid so much attention to it. It was a cultural phenomenon is what it was.
Yep.
And it was a cultural flashpoint. It was everything in one. Everything in one. It was race relations. It was celebrity. It was money. It was the justice system. It was incredible. It had literally every possible detail. Did you ever watch the 30 for 30 that the guy, I can't remember his name now, who made the series about the case for ESPN?
I didn't. I saw a lot of people tweeting about it last night.
Ezra something. It is brilliant. It's brilliant. The one flaw
Ezra
with
Miller?
it.
Is that Ezra? No.
No, I can't remember his last name
Edelman.
now.
Edelman.
Yes, Ezra Edelman. It's like 6 parts. It's fantastic. It goes through everything. It has one huge flaw. OJ didn't participate in it,
right.
and neither did his close family. There were some extended family that did, but none of his kids, no close family took part in the making of this. But it's fantastic, and it's I'm sure is going to get a lot of run, over the weekend now that this is back in the news again with OJ. Anyway, so I don't know. I thought that was funny. It was like 2 weeks ago, someone asked me, would an OJ signed football be worth anything? And I'm like, I don't think so, pal.
No, it's not.
Now, maybe. I don't know. Maybe today. You might want to sell it today. Today might be the day to do that if you really want to try to capitalize on it.
There are 2 things I tell people all the time because I get asked a little bit because I collect some of this stuff, and it's autographs and jerseys are the ones I tell people. If you've got them and you cherish them, they're not worth anything, but if you got them personally, they are personal mementos for you. But in general, you can't flip any of them. If you get an autograph, cool, frame it. It's a cool story. It's really not worth much usually in the end. As I just pointed out, OJ's worth like $100 right now. If you want one today, go get one on eBay. If you really want to go get one, and I would question your sanity if you're doing that. And the other one is jerseys. People always go like, oh, well, I have this jersey of, let's just say like a John Allen jersey, And I go, that's a used car. The second you buy it, it's worth a quarter of the price when you walk out of the team store because you're not flipping any of that. It's the same thing. Autographs are in the same realm of that. So yeah, they're just not.
No, I mean you need to have unique items for them to be really worth.
Correct. Yes. That's why I always say if you really want to invest in stuff, get game used stuff. I mean, you never know with some of it popping off of what it could be worth, but a lot of times it's a lot cooler to go look at this jersey. It was worn. It's photo matched. It's from this game. This player did whatever. Like that's what I always tell people to go for if you want to spend a little bit of money to get into the memorabilia game.
Right. Like what's a Braden Holtby autograph worth? Probably not very much.
Right.
But if I had that jersey from the game he made that save,
of course.
Well,
Yeah.
That's a different story, right?
No,
now, of course, that's a one of one, right? And if you get him to sign it or whatever, like it's even better than that. So who knows?
I used to do this actually. I have a Holtby rookie year signed game used stick. And so like I used to kind of roll the dice on some of these young guys that you could actually get their sticks for like $100, $150. And so I ended up with all of the young Caps goaltenders. One of them worked out. And is that stick worth something? I don't know. It's probably got to be worth $300 or $400. He's arguably the best goalie.
But you're not
in
making $1 million off.
Yeah,
it.
of course not. No.
Right.
The one guy that I went all in on early on his career, which is gonna pay off eventually here, is I went all in on John Carlson early on in his career, and I have a couple of his game used items and jerseys and signed stuff. he might be a Hall of Famer the way he's been going. So, like, that's another one. But you have to wait and see for some of these guys. And for all honesty, for every John Carlson, no offense, there's like a Carl Alsner who's a really good player, but he's not going to be that guy's level. And even if you're on that guy's level, it's not even, a guy that's known nationally. So, yeah. When it comes to the collectible space, you really got to pick and choose where you're going with it.
I mean, if you do have OJ's White Ford Bronco, well, that might be a collector's item.
Is that... I mean, we'd have to put that up against like Hollywood vehicles. Like, what's worth more, the white Ford Bronco or the DeLorean from Back to the Future? I don't. That's a coin flip. I'm not sure. I think there's like 3 of the DeLoreans, so you probably have to figure out which one is the most valuable. But yeah, I mean,
right.
it's like it has to be that iconic, is what I'm getting at here.
Right, the Batmobile.
Yeah, right.
Like
yes. Which one? I don't know, but they're all probably worth a pretty penny. Yes.
Yeah. Is that the Christian Bale one, or is that the Michael Keaton one,
or the Adam West one from way back in the day? Like, I mean,
the Adam West, the Adam West Batmobile's amazing. That is actually like a Chrysler DeLorean
Cruiser.
That just got painted black. That's all that. That's all that is.
Right.
Those costumes too are ridiculous too that they were wearing back in the day. Panties. They're walking around in panties. Anyway, all right. Let me get to the Beast. I had this guy. Boy, he is a grinder. Dane Brugler, eat your heart out, Mel. This thing's unbelievable. 324 pages where he breaks down literally every prospect that's coming in the draft. And I bothered to read 2 because one of these 2 players is going to be drafted number 2 overall by the Commanders, unless you are falling into the JJ hype, which I'm still not, and fall into the category of it's Maye or Daniels, and that's what it's going to be. His scouting report is different. It's not just tape review and here's what it looks like. It also is his background. So it's also what I really liked about this piece. So if you have The Athletic, you can get this. I really liked kind of how he talked about all of the different background stuff about him, because that's the stuff you don't really get to hear very much. Apparently Drake Maye's only 21. I didn't realize that. He's very young. So I want to take that into account here, because Daniels is a couple years older. He's the typical age of a player coming out of college, and I was surprised to see how young Maye was coming out. So he started He started at 19 and 20. Yeah, right. He started at age 19 and 20 for North Carolina. So he's very young when he was playing there. Apparently he, obviously as a football player in high school was amazing at crazy numbers. Apparently he was like kind of an all-world baseball player too. And I didn't know that about him. He was a shortstop and a pitcher before giving up baseball. That reminds me of Mahomes. That's what Mahomes was.
We're going down the Mahomes route over here.
Yeah, Mahomes was. His dad was a baseball pitcher. He was obviously a very high recruit. They go through his whole recruiting. That's what I really liked about this. They go through his whole recruiting, how he ended up at North Carolina. He then gets there, and then they go through, his 2 years of starting there. And this is what they said about his strengths. They go, built well, prototypical size and room to continue filling out, has a fluid, explosive release with above average velocity to drive the ball and make every throw down the field, smartly alters the ball's speeds and delivers with loft and touch when needed, shows a good feel for hot routes and checkdowns, still a novice in this area, but has gotten better using pumps and eye manipulation, quick feet on the 3-step drops when reacting to pocket pressure, tape is full of dot throws while on the move, sprints, rollouts, etc. Agile mover to evade rushers, and one of the better third down scramblers in recent years. Accounted for a combined 42 first down carries on third and fourth down the past 2 seasons. Led North Carolina, this is Sam Hallish, led North Carolina in rushing in 2022 and understands when to slide and when to use his toughness to finish runs. He had the second most 10-plus yard runs behind Jayden Daniels. How about that? Every time somebody says that he's Justin Herbert, I go, no, he's not. He's actually much faster than that. This was the other thing they said about him, which I thought was really interesting. He said, High school and college coaches all speak highly of his leadership role in the locker room and on the field. One NFL scout said that considering his family's success, I expected a cocky kid, but he's really grounded and humble. The golly gee stuff isn't an act. He'll need time before he's ready to lead an NFL room, but he'll get there. Benefits from the older brother theory. Has 3 highly accomplished and athletic older brothers who pushed him to be the most competitive in the family. Started 26 consecutive games past 2 years, et cetera, et cetera. Now we get to the weaknesses, and they said this. Plays with reckless tendencies and is still learning to throw the ball, the ones he should and should not. Generally, his accuracy is above average, but his arm gets juiced up and he'll miss layups. I noticed a lot of that with him.
Right.
Said needs to reel back some bad habits in the pocket, like excessive bouncing on his feet or fading away from throws. Needs to take better care of the football and is guilty of panic decisions as he's being sacked, turning a bad play into a catastrophic play. That's bad. Of his career, 16 career interceptions, 12 came in the second half. Responsible for 10 fumbles over the past 2 seasons. 2 of his most inconsistent performances in college came in the final 2 games that he played at Clemson and at NC State. So it's a mixed bag with him. The background stuff, though, gives me a lot more, I don't know, knowing where he came from, knowing he's humble, knowing he's got this extremely athletic family, feels like the Watt family a little bit. Like, I like this, you know. I didn't realize how young he was. I didn't realize he's only 21 years old. That's young. All the other stuff on film you see, the arm talent, you know, his ability to move. He's not Herbert. He can run. Good. But all the weaknesses he pointed out were the things that shied me away from him. Like, not only did like all these, especially all the turnovers come in the second half. That's not good.
Yeah.
Like
right.
that's
right.
Yeah. Like when everyone keeps saying he'll grow into the position, that screams, is he clutch? And, you know, like NC State and Clemson are good teams, not great teams he lost to. He also lost a game to Virginia last year as well.
That's right.
And I'll hear out that there is a little bit of the Sam Howell thing where he had really good talent around him his first year and he didn't his second year. Same thing happened to Howell, which kind of affected his draft stock because he didn't have the same caliber of talent around him in his senior year or junior or whatever it was that he played his last year at North Carolina. Still, Hal didn't have the turnovers like this. And that's concerning to me. On Daniels, they wrote this, and he did the same thing. He did a whole background on him, where he came from. He started as a high school freshman. He was only 5'11", 130 pounds, and had to be given a waiver by a doctor to be allowed to play high school football at the time because he was that thin and that slight. He also, and this won't surprise anybody if you watch him play, he ran track. You know, and he's obviously a major athletic freak. You know, he's very fast. And this is how Dane wrote about him. Explosive plays are all over his tape. Accounted for 90 plays of 20-plus yards in 2023. An electric athlete with quick, controlled feet. His father was a cornerback and makes Daniels move like one. He's slithery in the pocket. His internal clock matured at an encouraging rate. I saw this too. The difference between his play at Arizona State and LSU is massive. And maybe some of that's coaching, and maybe some of that is just progression, and maybe some of that, but he did it against better competition, which is the thing that really stands out to me. Quick release, can attack every inch of the field vertically and horizontally, identifies voids pre-snap, and has done a better job calming his eyes when scanning, excels with his placement on downfield throws, 67% completion, 22-0 touchdown to interception rate on 20-plus yard throws. 0 interceptions, 22 touchdowns, nearly 70%, 20 yards in the air. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Dangerous runner with acceleration that destroys pursuit angles. I've talked about this a lot. It's not just that he's fast. His 0 to 20 is unbelievable. Like when he gets out of the pocket, it is really quick. I mean, when he makes a decision to go, he goes and he's gone. They go on to say this, and this is the other thing you're going to really love about him. Adopted a tireless work ethic to understand every nuance of the offense. LSU head coach Brian Kelly said his work in the offseason was unbelievable. We used to cut off how long players could stay in the building, but had to change our protocols and give players unlimited access because Jayden basically lived in there.
Have you gotten to
the downside is what you would expect to be the downside.
Does it mention the VR stuff in that? Have you heard about that too?
That he does all the VR stuff?
That he basically, when he went from Arizona State to LSU, he picked up using a VR system to do drop back passes and actually simulate being in a game. And apparently that is what's helped him also make the jump from Arizona State to LSU, that he went into a full-blown VR system to get extra reps. That way he didn't have to get his whole entire team together. He could do it on his time anytime. So I think that's alluding to that, is that I don't know if LSU has their own VR system or he had his own or what, but that is all in line of pretty much what I have heard as well, that he took these monstrous steps because of the work ethic that he's got off the field.
The play between Arizona State and LSU, and this is why I'm so bullish about him.
Yep.
He got so much better. Like that it's, well, what's the ceiling then?
Yep.
Like if that's what he got, if that's how much he got better there, what's not to say he's not going to get much better once he gets to the NFL and adjusts to that?
That's right. Exactly.
And it's funny, I do a sports tech podcast and all this VR stuff has come out for years. And every time I talk to the people who create them, we're always dumbfounded at how few people actually use it for this.
Yes, exactly. It's super accessible. Not super accessible, but it's way more accessible now than it was even 5 years ago. Like you can buy, I don't want to call it cheap, but like they're affordable now to actually get into this realm a little bit. Not to mention there are places that have it set up. Yeah, exactly. It's way more accessible than it was 5 years ago. I mean, it's ridiculous how much the technology has jumped.
Here's what they described as his weaknesses. And one of them is not much he's going to be able to do anything about. Slender bone structure with a lean features with limited growth potential. Yeah. And the scary part is he could get hurt. That's all they're basically saying. He could get hurt. Processing has improved, but will leave reads a little too quickly, more likely to scramble than create second chance throws when pressured. Lived outside the numbers in LSU's offense. Accuracy suffers when he adds RPMs to his throws. He usually misses high. Can be more precise with his placement to make things easier on his receivers. Takes too many hits on keepers. I've talked about this a lot. Keepers draw scrambles. He needs to better protect himself. That's my biggest. That's the scariest thing about him to me, is that he took way too many hits, in my opinion. Then they call this a weakness. I don't know that it is. Said he benefited from elite wide receiver talent at LSU. That's true. Like he did. I mean, but sure, that shouldn't be a knock on him. So did Michael Penix. So like you have to go after Penix too, if that's what you're going to say. And then the last thing, he said this, and they called this a weakness. I don't know that it is. Will turn 24 as a rookie. Is that a weakness?
I don't think so. I mean, I guess. Look,
what are you suggesting? He'd have a shorter career than Drake Maye by what, 1 or 2 years? Like, what do we?
Yeah, like I was gonna say, like, are we worrying about having this guy not have a long career? Because if we are having that conversation, then that's a really good thing, actually. That we're like talking about him having a, I don't know, 14-year career instead of a 15-year career. I don't know what we're getting at there. Like, that's a weird.
Most of the time, most of the time, you're like, I hope he's our franchise quarterback for the next 10 years. Well, if he is, he's 34.
That's right.
So
right, exactly.
I don't think that's a weakness. Anyway, the bottom line thing he put with this on the summary, he said this. Overall, Daniels is a smooth point guard from the pocket with his eyes staying on schedule, and his dazzling run skills make him a problem for defenses. This isn't an apples-to-apples comparison, but NFL scouts say he forces opponents to defend him like Lamar Jackson. Can we draft this guy, please? I mean, NFL scouts say he's Lamar Jackson?
Right.
Okay, Thank you.
Yeah.
Done.
I will say this. I will say this in this last week or so, week and a half. I'm very much at peace with both of them. I was very much team Jayden, still very much team Jayden. I've come around, though, if they draft Drake Maye, that I'm also very much fine with it. Like, it seems like both of them have their own set of skills that will make them successful. I know you got to be right, but like I'm very much at peace with either one of them at this point.
You know, the interesting part is it's so hard to compare them. They're very different players. They're just they're very, very, very. That's the hardest part of this. They're very different players.
The best part is both of them are mobile. It means that they can help nullify the offensive line right now. Like that's right. Seriously, it's the best.
I hate when they say Herbert with Maye. He's not. No. When he stands in the pocket, he looks like him and can throw like him, but Herbert can't run like that. At all.
That's right. All
right, let me take a quick break. Bram wants to show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, here's what's going on at the Masters, round 2. Three-way tie at the top of the leaderboard. Max Homa, Bryson DeChambeau, Scotty Scheffler. Nobody is scoring at the clip that people were doing yesterday. DeChambeau had a 65, Scheffler a 66. Homa 67, all of them, the best score is 1 under through 16. That's Homa at 6 under. DeChambeau through 11, 1 over. Scheffler is only through 5. He's even par. That's the three-way tie. 3 players at 4 under par, including Nikolai Hojgaard, who is actually in the clubhouse after a 73, +1 today. Let's see. Any names to mention? There's not a lot of the big names near the top of the leaderboard. You heard them between DeChambeau and Scheffler. But John Rahm is far down the leaderboard. Tiger Woods looks like he's going to make the cut. +1, even par through 17. Cut line is at +4. So unless he blows up for some reason on 18, he's going to end up making the cut this weekend. John Rahm, the defending champ, 3 over through 6 after a 73 yesterday. All right. The Wizard season is going to come to an end over the weekend. They're playing at home tonight against Chicago, and then they got Boston, I believe, on the road on Sunday. Yeah. So that'll do it. They're sitting at 15 wins. Vegas is never wrong about this. Their over-under is 15.5.
Yep. Yeah,
that's unbelievable. So, I'm sure there's a few people that might be heading down there tonight, sweating it out tonight. Because, the Sunday game, who's Boston playing? They're locked. So, I don't know. They may sit everybody. Who knows what they're going to do?
And would it surprise you if Boston's backups could beat the Wizards?
No.
So, there you go. That's the other part of it. It wouldn't shock me if the Wizards just phoned it in. But I remember, I think when that number was dropped, 15.5, that was their over-under on win totals. I remember you were like, oh, they're gonna beat that, and we went through the schedule.
15 is such a low number. It's such a ridiculously low number.
We went through the schedule game by game, and you're like, maybe not. Maybe they're not going to do that, actually. And here we are, 2 games left to go, and they might not actually do it.
They might not actually do it. Yeah, tonight seems like the best shot. Go up there and do it. So let's see.
Good luck, guys.
Yeah, good luck, boys. They get them tonight. Did you see the long-form treatment that they got on ESPN yesterday?
I saw the article. I did not get to read it yet. So
I read this. I don't know this writer. This is a new writer to me. It's very good, by the way.
Okay.
I don't think you learn. It's very well written. I think it'd be the best way I could put this.
Yeah.
I don't think you learn a ton about them other than it's just kind of a fly on the wall of being in a losing locker room.
Got it.
Is really what it's about. And it's like, how are you guys handling this? And it's the guy's name. I'm going to butcher his name. Dotun Akintoye is the writer. It's very good. It's very well written, very good, easy read. And a lot of it does focus on Jordan Poole, the beginning and the end. And it's interesting because he's like with him. It starts with him being the writer being around the Wizards relatively early in the season, and this is when you'll remember Poole was a meme every night. Like every game produced some kind of ludicrous play that he made, and he talks about it with him. With this one kind of exception, and I didn't know this, Poole's not really on social media, which probably is better off, especially this year, probably is better off because he was getting clowned badly by his own fault, though, by some of the plays that he was making. These no-look turnaround 3-point shots that were being blocked or these crazy brick air balls he was just throwing up at bizarre angles. Remember all that was happening night by night by night by night?
Yep.
So he talks to him about this. And it was interesting because he brings it up and Poole had some quotes in it. And this is what he said kind of about what was going on early in the season. And he said this, quote, "You don't want to make it look worse than it already is, right?" And the writer goes, and he goes, and his eyes are now scanning the corners of the room as he considers how far he wants to take this point. Are his teammates going to hear him talking about this? And he goes, quote, "Let's say I go 5 possessions without touching the ball, 6 possessions without touching the ball. I could force the next 4, right? But if we already forced 4 shots, now it just looks even like worse basketball." And I think the point he was trying to make was none of us were in any kind of semblance of an offense. One, because we're probably not good enough, and we know this. 2, this is early under Wes where it was, come on, that was awful what was going. It was one thing that they were going to lose. It was another thing that they were losing so embarrassingly at the beginning of the season. So I don't think necessarily it's a shot at Wes, but it's an indictment of the coaching that was occurring in this. We all knew they were going to be bad. And to go back to the point of, isn't 15 a low number? It might have been had they been, I don't know, properly coached for the first month and a half, 2 months of the season. Right?
Right. Sure. Right.
So it goes on and it talks a lot about this stuff. And he's like, and the writer keeps talking about how he's aware that everybody is kind of making fun of him, because is clowning on him because look, like you went from a dynasty team, you had a terrible thing happen that was on video. Everybody saw it. Now you're not there anymore. Everybody's got their own opinions about all of that. And now you're on arguably the worst team in the NBA.
Right.
And not only are you on the worst team in the NBA, you guys are a ridiculous blooper reel and you're number one on the not top 10 every night.
Yes, that's right. Exactly.
And so he said, there was one more quote he said, he goes, he's stuck on how things look. He goes, I could go shoot the ball 6 times in a row, right? But then what does that look like for our team? I mean, you watched it. And I kind of hear him a little bit on it. Like, I still think some of his decision-making in the games were worth clowning because they were utterly ridiculous.
Sure.
Like, it's one thing if you just miss shots. It's another thing when you're just throwing up circus carnival shots on a really bad team. Like, you're asking to be a joke. And then there were reels people were putting together calling this this is the most ridiculously terrible team basketball we've seen in a long time. And they would show these 5-minute clips from games where they couldn't get rebounds or they would miss wide open layups or all sorts of crazy things that were going on. And so I'll hear Poole a little bit here that I went from one thing, I came to another. I knew what the score was. We knew it'd be bad. I didn't know how bad. We were all trying to figure it out. Maybe we weren't coached very well at the beginning. And what you saw was essentially that. So can we get maybe a do-over? It was kind of the feeling I got from reading it. And you know what? I'm hearing him a little bit about it. I am.
Yeah, and I would say this too. It actually, the crazy going for it type plays aren't the ones that bothered me. It was the ones where it was the mental lapse, where the one where he fumbled the inbounds pass. That's the one that infuriated me the most. Because look, they were telling us all offseason he was going to get the ball. And we kind of knew we were going to get some of this when they're going to let him do whatever he wants. And then when they reeled the offense back and shuffled Wes into the front office, they got back to playing normal basketball. But it was really never, to me, I guess this is where it's funny. This was Wizards, bruh, to me. To me, it was never really Poole, if that makes sense. Yes, Poole was making...
No, it wasn't.
Right.
And I think that's the point that was trying to be made here. It's he was put in a really bad spot. Clearly, they weren't coached very well. They didn't have a good enough team to win anyway. Everybody knew that going in, and it turned into a giant embarrassment is what it turned into.
Yeah.
Yes, and they had to do what they had to do, which was change the coach. And largely, they had some bad losses, but largely they lost, but they lost respectfully.
Right.
And that I think everybody's okay with because that's what we expected going into it. The beginning of the season and then the few moments otherwise where they just get boat raced and they don't look like they belong in the league, that's what was unacceptable to this whole thing. And if you're going to do it, and I think some of the point of the story, it's very good, is look, we knew we were in a rebuild. We knew it wasn't going to be pretty. We knew we were going to lose a lot, but that's not acceptable. We can't, that's not what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to be the worst team ever. That's not what we're trying. We're trying to rebuild the program. We're not trying to be a laughingstock.
Right.
And that's what they were for a couple of months.
Yep, exactly.
The one other piece that popped up in this, the writer did talk to Winger. Actually rode in his car with him. Got to hear the audio books he listens to.
Winger in cars. Yes, all right.
Winger in cars. Turns out he likes Malcolm Gladwell. He likes that type of Michael Lewis. He likes that type of writer. That's his thing. And then he got back to this one thing of what they call, I got to find this, where they call this the triangulation of bad roster management. Here it is. The big idea or NBA truism that he lives by is this, what's called the unattainable triangle of roster construction. You cannot have youth, flexibility, and stars all at the same time. Trying to maintain all three at once, he thinks, has been part of the Wizards' problem in the recent past.
I mean, that's about right. We always say they keep middling. They don't ever just go in one direction. That fits.
Like Wiggers basically was like, once the Clippers got Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, they went all in with veterans. Okay, we got our guys. Let's go get a team and put it around them. We can't sit here and play both sides of the fence, right?
Right.
And he might be right about this. Like, once they paid Brad, didn't they have to put a bunch of veterans around him to give him a shot to win? But they didn't actually do that.
Right. Correct.
Not that I think necessarily it would have worked out in their favor, but they didn't actually do that. So to their point, it's kind of true. They never really chose a path.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely right. They kept wanting to but have these young guys complement Brad instead of trading said pick or players for veterans to surround Brad. Now, I will say this, though. They did that with Brad and John.
They did.
They had a constant turning,
they brought in Gortat. They brought in they brought in Morris. They brought in Nene. Like they did have. They had a couple young guys. Like they had a couple young guys. They made the wrong choice between Oubre and Otto, but they had a couple of young guys with them.
Yeah. So like I will say that and that's why that's why they were successful back then too. Like they were I think they had 49 wins one of those seasons. So it was kind of like, let's do more of that instead of you holding on to that first-round pick that you can't sign anyways. So, no, it's spot on. This is a shining example of how it's spot on.
Right. The other side is OKC, where Will Dawkins comes from, where they went, we're going to go youth and flexibility until we get to the point that we decide we do go. Their calculation is going to change starting literally right now. Right. Now that they've got what is a very, very good team, and they know who their stars are, Shea, Holmgren, whoever else on that team, you'll see. Like they're going to stop this stockpiling of stuff, and they're going to now use it as an arsenal to get some veterans around those guys. Watch, like it's good. They're going to turn that corner now, and that's what the hope is here. The question is, do we even have those pieces? And I think about that OKC thing, and I go, well, let's just say optimistically, Bilal's one of them. Well, who else is it? And how many years away are we from having Shea, Holmgren, and the other? We're a ways away.
Yep.
Exactly. But you know what? I'm willing to wait it out as long as it's not like it was early in the season. Yep. And that's why they had to do what they had to do. It's a great piece. You should read it. It's terrific. All right, be right back. Bram watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, here's what's going on at the Masters. Bryson DeChambeau, birdie on 12, makes him the lone leader yet again. And at Augusta, 7 under par is the number to chase. He is even par on the day after a 65 yesterday. He is through 12. Max Homa is finishing up his second round, 1 under through 17, 1 shot back. Scotty Scheffler still on the front 9, even par through 6, 1 shot back, 6 under par. There are 3 players at 4 under, and there are 3 players at 3 under. So there's a lot of space between DeChambeau, Homa, and Scheffler from the majority of the field. Tiger Woods, I believe, made the cut. Let me check and see if he has actually finished. At last check, he was through 17. The projected cut line today is 4 over par, and Tiger Woods is on 18 at +1, even par on the day, so he should make the cut and make it to the weekend. A couple programming notes for you today. From 6 to 6:30, you'll hear an interview with Dennis Scott as part of our coverage of the Capital Classic, which is happening over the weekend. Dennis Scott Callow is coaching one of the teams, is that right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And then this is the last DC Coaches Show of the season. I'm sure they'll recap UConn's win in the national championship. Yep. Maybe some thoughts on Caitlin Clark and South Carolina as well. And then I'd love to hear what they have to say about John Calipari bolting Kentucky for Arkansas. I can't wait to hear that one too. And that's last show.
Yeah, and that's at 5 to 6 o'clock. We had got into a little bit of a crunch because of the Orioles playing at 7, so a 6:30 start. So pretty much leading all the way into Orioles is going to be that. So a lot of hoops action heading into the baseball.
Well, that means since there's no line change, you're going to have to give me your line change bets at the end of the show.
Yeah, happy to do that. Okay. I didn't know if you wanted
me
to do
that down.
Yeah, we call that the 5 spot, Bram. We call it the 5 spot. That's the official.
We'll do the 5 spot at the end of the show then to get it in.
Gotcha.
Get it in before Gary Williams usurps all your time today. All right.
Yes.
Let's see. All right, the fun has officially begun for the Orioles. The season for the ages is officially here. I got to see day 1 of it in Fenway, where they just blew out the Red Sox on their opening day. But the last 2 nights have been utter joyous. Let's see. They were down 5-0 2 nights ago, and they came back and won. Yeah. And then last night came back twice and then scored 6 runs in the 10th inning and got the boos were raining down at Fenway last night. And if it's not one, it's going to be the other. Colton Cowser had 10 RBI in the series. He's like the first Oriole to do that and since whatever. Jackson Holliday doesn't have a hit yet, but it's only been a couple of games. It's bound to happen sooner or later. When we were at the opener, Gunnar Henderson, who's was only hitting like 203 or whatever entering the series, had a couple of clutch hits late. Adley Rutschman had a clutch hit late. We had an incredible moment in the opener that I loved. Gunnar Henderson had a double in, I don't know, 7th or 8th inning. The score was already, it was like 5-1 or 6-1 at that point. And Gunnar Henderson had a double. And the pitcher tried to pick him off at second base.
Yep. And
it pissed him off so much that he stole third. and it was hilarious because the pitcher couldn't keep it together from that point forward.
Yeah.
Like every pitch was shaky from that. It was hilarious. And I remember because Rutschman was up and I said to Archer, who was sitting next to me, I go, I guarantee this is a hit. I'm like, what? Because you could just see he was shaking. Now, Henderson was like, oh, you're going to try to pick me off? Watch this. And then stole third as he was in his windup, and the third baseman wasn't covering the base. And he's like, yeah, get real tricky with me, pal. So the fun of the year has begun. We have officially, I think the Kraken has been unleashed a little bit here, and you've seen what they're capable of the last couple of nights.
Well, I think what's happening here too, though, is Gunnar and Adley are, pedestrian at the moment with what they're doing. And when I say pedestrian, they're still really, really, really good. But Cowser is the one that I don't think people had realized because he got called up last year, and he was a top prospect before Jackson Holliday was. And he got called up last year, and he was the definition of fine. Wasn't amazing by any means, was still figuring it out at the plate. Oh, well, he's now figured it out too. And so now all of a sudden, it's like if Rutschman and Gunnar don't have it going on a game, Cowser apparently now is the next in line to be the stud. Yeah, I mean, you call it the Kraken. I think I need to shift it to the octopus because it's if 3 of those legs aren't working, the other 3 are going to start working too. I mean, same beast essentially, but it's I made a joke yesterday on my show of keep betting moneyline Orioles. And in fact, I think you should wait in some of these games to live bet the Orioles when they go down on a team because it's their lineup is so relentless. If they go down early in the first through third inning, who's not to say they just break through another team's bullpen real fast? And look exactly how they won all those games in Boston. It was because their bats just stayed hitting late in these games, and they end up coming back and having all these comeback wins against Boston. So, yeah, they're just a force. I mean, it's an absolute force of what they're doing right now.
When Archer and I play MLB The Show, there's a rule that you can't play with the Braves or the Dodgers because there's no easy outs in the game.
Okay.
That's the Orioles in real life.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
They don't have an easy out.
Right.
There's no easy out. So they're never out of anything, as exemplified by the last couple of days. The Red Sox aren't a very good team. I mean, that's
sure.
That's notable here. Still, I think the point is taken. When you come back the way they've come back or have these outbursts, which I think you're going to see often, this team is going to they're going to have these bizarre 6-7 run innings.
Yes.
Or they'll have they're going to have games where they double-digit runs.
Yep.
It just their lineup is so ridiculous, and I think it's finally the fun has begun. And I think you saw it this week because they actually started relatively so. They weren't outside of the first couple of games. They actually weren't scoring a lot of runs, and the record was hovered around 500. This is the series where the beast was awakened.
Yep. Right. Exactly. And it's a team you should take care of, and they did. So that's the most important part about it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a quick break. Bram wants to show ESPN 630 Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Here's what's going on at the Masters, round 2. Bryson DeChambeau still your lone leader. He's through 12 even par today. 7 under par is the number to chase. There are 2 players who are 1 shot back. Max Homa, Scotty Scheffler. Scheffler is even through 6. Homa is finished with his second round after carding a 1 under 71. There are 2 players at 4 under par, 3 players at 3 under par. Check that, 4 players at 3 under par, including Colin Morikawa. Another 4 players at 2 under par, including Will Zalatoris. Tiger Woods will be playing this weekend there. He did make the cut. Projected cut line at 4 over par. He finishes today at 1 over. He carded a 73 yesterday and a 72 today. He actually had to finish his first round this morning because of darkness yesterday. So that's what's happening at the Masters. Some NBA news. Been a lot of defections now to the draft after the NCAA tournament is finished. Kyle Filipowski is going to go pro. Donovan Clingan, who I think made himself a lot of money, the center from the athletic center from UConn.
Yep.
Who performed. I kind of figured this going into that national championship game that if he could show well against Zach Edey, and he's more athletic than he is, then he's going to prove himself to be a pretty valuable player. He even showed his range a little bit in the NCAA championship game. So I bet he's a pretty high pick, that guy. A true 7-footer who can shoot a little bit from range. I think he's got a good shot.
Yeah. No. I mean, look, what's funny is this is a quote-unquote weak draft year, which means players like him, that's top 5 pick probably, right? Like,
maybe.
I mean, like it's very much possible. And I think when it's a wild card like this, you kind of just enter in and hope that you can enter up into one of those lottery picks and make as much money as you can as fast as you can.
The guy who is projected right now to be the number 2 overall pick, his name is Alex Sarr. He's French. But he's been playing in Australia for the last year in their professional league, did declare today. And as it stands right now, unless the Wizards win their, lose their last 2 games and the Pistons win their last 2 games, the Wizards will have the second most ping pong balls when the lottery comes around. And we'll see how it shakes out. But he'll be a name to watch for them because Washington, in all likelihood, will have a top 5 pick at worst. So we'll see.
Yep. No, exactly right. Yeah.
The other story today is Mark Pope is the new head coach at Kentucky. So he was formerly the BYU coach. I saw Rick Pitino do a very nice video about how great he is, and he's going to be great for Kentucky. They did try to get Scott Drew out of Baylor. He wouldn't take the job, claimed God told him to stay at Baylor.
Okay.
Let's see. We think they went after Dan Hurley, but I don't know what amount of money would have gotten him out of there because who's got it better than him up at that place right now? And he made it. I saw an interview with him where he was like, I'm not going anywhere. He's like, I'm not even going to try leverage here. I'm not going anywhere. I don't want to go anywhere.
Right.
So he's staying there. So this feels like they had to kind of accept who would take the job, which it's Kentucky. You wouldn't think would be that way, but I don't know. Maybe that job isn't as attractive as it used to be.
Well,
I'm not sure.
I think, if anything, the fan base has demonstrated they're very powerful. And in today's day and age, the NIL age, how many sides do you want to hear it from is what I'm getting at here. And if that fan base is, basically doing what they're doing with Calipari, you're kind of like, how am I going to survive in that one if he couldn't survive in it too? So, yeah, I'm not surprised, I guess, that it's not as strong as everyone once thought.
If finishing in the top 2 or 3 of the SEC every year, getting to the tournament every year, and in many years, having decent runs in it, isn't enough, that if you're Scott Drew, yeah, no thanks.
Right.
Because your expectations are just ridiculous.
Exactly.
Unless you're going to give me $20 million in NIL that I could use on players.
That's right.
And then, if you're going to do that, well, then you might as well just keep Calipari because he'll be fine.
That's right.
With him.
Exactly right.
One of the things that Calipari mentioned in going to Arkansas was that they put a number in front of him and said, you're going to be able to use this amount of money to get players. And he described it as, I'm not going to have to do it as much as I did at Kentucky. So he's kind of throwing it back on them going, okay, guys, you know what? Show me the money then.
Right.
Arkansas did. Go show your next coach the money.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly right.
This is one of those divorces where I don't think anyone's right. Is Calipari going to go to Arkansas and be great there? I don't know. Will he be good? I'm sure. They've been under Musselman, they were good. So will they remain good? Yes. Is he a big enough name that he attracts recruits? Yes. But it comes down to money now. It's not just him anymore. It comes down to money. So will they have good teams? Probably. Is Kentucky still a massive brand? Yes. But they're going to find out the hard way. They don't have a named coach anymore.
That's right. Yep. Exactly right. Yeah. And
so beware what you wish for, Kentucky.
Well, not only that, Calipari was able to hang his hat on, hey, you come here, you only have to stay for 1 year, I'll get you into the draft. And say what you want in the NIL age, I get it, it's not the same, but he still had a formula and he still had a way to get people there. Good luck not having the formula now, because I feel like that's half the issue with college sports in general is if you don't have something to hang your hat on, good luck. No one cares what your brand is anymore. That's the funny thing, too, with all the NIL stuff. brand doesn't really matter. Unless you're Alabama or the SEC in football, nothing matters in that realm too. So good luck thinking that your name is going to be big enough in college basketball these days.
Well, I found it funny, like after he went out and everybody was like, you can't win that way anymore. And I'm like, you can't win by getting the best recruits? What are you talking about?
Right.
Like, what do you mean you can't win that way? Since when?
Right.
And, their point was with the money flowing now, more teams, guys are more willing to stick around. And because you can move around with this portal, like teams can kind of construct themselves a little differently with more experience, is what they were saying. And I'm still like, yeah, but I'll take the 5-star guy any day of the week. Like, why would I turn that down?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So anyway, I wish them both luck with their decision making. He goes, and I'm going to go run off to Arkansas, which you're like, that's an interesting choice. And you're doing it in the SEC, so you're trying to burn them. Like you wanted to show them. And now they're sitting there holding the bag going, wait a minute, the big name coaches don't want our job?
Right.
Huh.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, let's see. What else? Oh, Tom Brady. Oh, you. Why? Like, why? You didn't play last year. You're now starting the Fox job. You've kicked Greg Olsen out. Now you're saying months in advance. Not like, this isn't like, well, months in advance. If the right team calls me in December, I'll go there.
Right. I mean, he is
If I'm Fox, it's the last thing on earth I want to hear him say.
No. I think I'm wrong here. He didn't say he was joining a team full time. He said late season run. So he can still work for Fox for 3/4 of the season.
Don't they want him calling the Super Bowl?
If he's playing in the Super Bowl, who cares? They get to say that's our guy, Tom Brady. And then he's coming right back to the booth, most likely.
Because aren't they calling the Super Bowl next year? Them?
CBS was last year, so yeah, I would assume it's Fox, right? Unless it kicks over to
it's either Fox or NBC. I don't remember.
I can look. Hold on one sec. But I mean, wouldn't you say though, Fox is going, yeah, all right, if you want to make it a late run and you're not going to do it in the whole entire season, fine. They start cashing their checks in early. I mean, I don't know. It is Fox. It is Fox, by the way. Yes, it's Fox.
So let me get this straight. Okay, let me get this straight. He's saying his first year of the $8 bazillion they paid him to be in the booth with Kevin Burkhardt, that like he's willing to bolt in a year where Fox has the Super Bowl.
He probably has a clause, though. It's not like he's just saying that.
And so what? Like, what is he saying? Like, if my team doesn't get to the Super Bowl, I'll still call the Super Bowl? Is that what he's saying?
Maybe that could be what it is. I mean, look, I think what this goes down to, too, is what he's getting at is it's got to be circumstantial. Like, there's probably a handful of teams he would do it for. Like,
he said that.
Yeah.
He was like the Raiders.
Yeah.
He said the Patriots. I think that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah. And they're going to retire. They're going to put him in the Hall of Fame over the summer, too. I don't know if you saw that, too. They were like, he's coming back for this ceremony. Yeah. They like joked about it on their social media. But yeah, I mean, just, I don't know. Like, saying it's going to be a late season run is different than I'm listening to teams calling right now. There is a difference in those two things.
Wonder what's going to happen to Greg Olsen. What's he going to do?
Yeah, we still don't know about him. Yeah, I don't know.
Is he going to drop down to the number 2 booth? Is he going to move? Like, we haven't had the booth shakeup that I expected yet. I'm waiting for Thursday night. What's that going to be? Maybe everyone's waiting on Kelsey, what he's going to do. Maybe that's what the holdup is.
The people at Fox could be telling Olsen, hey, man, if Brady sucks at this thing, like, you'd be put right back up there. So, like, if you want to wait a year, bare minimum, we could see what happens there. I mean,
maybe it's the hedge for Brady where he's like, if I suck at this thing, I'm going to get out of there and go play.
Sure. Maybe. Could be. I mean, like that could be the out there, right? I mean, Witten did it, right? Didn't Witten go into the booth and then come back?
Witten was very bad at it.
But didn't he come back too? Didn't he go play? Like, didn't he go back?
I think
did he play
did.
for the Raiders? I think he played for the Raiders. Like, I
feel came back and played for a year. Yeah, the danger of, well, at least like Brady, you got to remember, Brady didn't play last year, so Brady didn't go straight to the booth. It's always dangerous when you do this. Like, it diminishes what we do for a living, and it makes it seem like it's so easy to do, and it's really not. And Witten was the prime example of, if you're not prepared or ready to do this, like it's going to get exponentially bad when it's done on a stage like that. It's like one thing if we're going to bring you along slowly and have you call college games that, not that many people are seeing. And if it doesn't go that well, whatever. Like Drew Brees was bad at it too. I don't know if you remember that. Like Drew Brees went in the booth and was not good at it and quickly got out of it.
It was, by the way, 2018. Jason Witten retired. Then he went back and played for Dallas. Started all 16 games, and then he went to play on for the Raiders in 2020. So he actually played 2 more seasons afterwards. So, did happen.
Yeah, he had a rough go up there. He had a rough go. All right, so Tom can't help himself. Has to thrust himself back in the conversation of I might come back. Had to do it. Couldn't hold back. Couldn't wait. Thought after a full year off, like that would have done it, right? That would have ended it. No, he can't do that.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Okay. The NFL draft is finally less than 2 weeks away. Thank God for all of us.
Yes.
I think they started this a couple of years ago, but they made an announcement today about how many players have been invited to the green room. And I think they finally have wisened up. And they're only inviting like 13 guys. And they're all almost definitively going to be first-round picks, if not top half of the first round. So they've decided there will be no more embarrassing solo shots of the guy who gets passed over and over and over and over and over. They've decided we're done with that.
Yeah,
and we're just not going to do it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's the smart thing to do. I mean, it benefits nobody. Everyone, like, Aaron Rodgers has had a Hall of Fame career, and they still talk about him being in the green room when he got drafted. Like, it tells you literally can't outrun it. The NFL is usually very calculated in these things, and it's now come to their attention where they're saying this benefits none of us if any of these guys get left in the back.
And if these guys like CeeDee Lamb with the phone and the girl, like, and they do that in their own house on their own time,
right.
Well, that's on them. The NFL couldn't do anything about it, but they can put an end to this. This guy's getting like passed over and over and over, and with 10 to 15 minutes between picks, it's ugly. Like it's not pretty. It's embarrassing to the player. It's something they have to answer for the rest of their life. So I'm glad the NFL's putting an end to that.
Me too.
One of the names that was not invited was Penix. So I thought that was an interesting one. So
JJ's doing it from home too, I think too. I don't know if he was invited, but I think they said JJ McCarthy isn't going to be there either.
I think that's smart.
Yeah,
I think that's smart. I think he could go either way. He could end up being the 4th pick. He could end up being the 11th pick. He could end up being the 18th pick. Like, I think he could go.
Like, he could fall in the 2nd round. That wouldn't shock me if that happened.
He could. So I think he's one where he wisely should probably sit at home. And then after any pick is announced, like, they get the call before the pick's brought in.
Right.
I would tell him during the draft, first few picks you can sit there, whatever. Mm-hmm. But like once you get to pick 6, if you're not getting selected, go hide so no one can get a video of you. Nothing.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
They can't see you.
Like an actual.
No one can see you.
Like a green room.
No reaction.
Yeah, like a green room, but no one can actually see you. Yeah.
Go back to your bedroom, hang out in there. We'll tell you to come back out.
That's right.
You know when you're getting picked. The team calls you before you're getting picked.
Right.
So you know it before they actually announce it on TV. So that's what I would say to him because he's a wild card. He can go anyway. And Penix wasn't invited either, which the NFL is basically saying, we think you might be a high pick and we think you might not be. So he's another one. Would he go as high as 11? Could he go higher than that? Would he surprise? So would somebody's could there be a surprise? Someone trades up and jumps Minnesota if Minnesota can't get into the top 5 or whatever. Like, could the Raiders try to jump Minnesota? That's a possibility. Or does he just fall and fall and fall and fall? And I'm not sure which way that one's going to go.
Yeah, right. I don't know.
So we'll have to see.
Yep.
The other thing I saw today was the Kelceys went back to the University of Cincinnati to get their degrees.
Yep. Yeah.
Travis Kelce, downed a beer on stage while getting his degree, slammed the beer can down, howled something, and took his degree and walked off stage. To which I would say, that's great. You are one of the 5 people in America that can get away with doing that. Can you imagine if I did that at American University? Like, can you imagine, like, if anybody you know actually did that on stage? Like, I don't know that the school would do anything about it, but I don't think the chancellor of the school would be sitting there laughing about it. I really don't.
No, but it was also a big publicity event for them. Like, I don't know if you saw they had like a legitimate entrance. Did you see their entrance?
No.
Yeah, it was like full-blown NBA Chicago Bulls finals. Like, it was flame cannons, fog machine. They both came running out. I think he also slammed a beer at that point too, but it was both of them. So, I mean, this was more an overall publicity stunt than him actually going, I'm going to go chug a beer on stage. I think they pretty much egged him on and told him to do whatever it was going to, whatever he wanted.
So Cincinnati was all in Cincinnati was like, we're full New Heights. Let's go.
There's a New Heights banner in the background. So, yeah, 100%. This is a full, like, sponsored event, essentially. Because I think they actually are having an event there, too. Whether it's this week or next week or something like that. So, yeah. No, this is full. Cincinnati was fully on board with this, is what I'm
So they were fully on board with this. This wasn't a surprise. They were like, bring all of it. We want all of it. We want our graduation ceremony to be WWE.
Hey,
Go for it.
They're probably also going, NIL money, baby. Like, who wants to come to Cincinnati? You want to be like the Kelseys? Like, they're probably trying to hype it up like that. I mean, sure.
That's true. I guess, like, you might as well take advantage. We're in a new time now. You're trying to get people to come.
Yeah,
come here. It's fun. We'll have fun here. Oh, by the way, these famous football players played here. Come here.
Right.
You can slam beers on stage when you graduate.
If you play sports. If you play sports.
If you play sports. All right, one other thing. Did you see the Iverson statue?
Oh, yeah. See, I didn't want to bring this up because, it is Josh Harris. And what are they doing? What are they doing there?
Well, but I want to say this. I think all the statues at the practice facility are the same size.
Okay. All right.
Somebody put up a video that was like, I don't know why everybody's going crazy here. This is Dr. J's. This is Dave Cowens. This is Moses Malone. Like, they're all not
the same
big
scale. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're saying is context does matter here. Is what you're getting at.
Yes. Now, I actually, for some reason, a reason not worth explaining. I went to the Sixers practice facility once. I don't remember seeing the statues, so I wish I could verify this. But like the tweets are unbelievable. They're all doing like mini me and all this stuff because it looks tiny. But like, I think all of the statues there are that size.
All right, that's different then because I saw it and I went, this is all you guys could afford, or this is what you guys thought looked good? Like, because look, here's the other part, too.
Yes, we all know Allen was short.
Well, yeah, see, that's the other part. Allen the AI is standing there, and I'm going, AI's bigger than his own statue. What the hell is that? Like, what are you doing there? Like, that's the weirdest part about it. AI's not a big dude, but like, come on. So, all right, I guess because they're all the same size, what would help, though, is
Makes sense.
Why not have the statues all near each other then? Like, that way,
I agree with that.
It would look better if they were all near each other. Like, I think they should have done that. I think that's a botch. That's a botch then. You should have shown that.
I do love, though, that his statue is at the practice facility and not at the stadium because we are talking about practice. And that is where that statue needs to be.
I think we also know, too, 76er land is trying to become a thing.
Yeah.
So why put the statue at Wells Fargo when you might just have to move it? But yeah, I agree with you. The fact that we're talking about practice, not a game, and his is at the practice facility, I do like that. I do like that a lot, actually.